The NFL is back. The Snap UK podcast is back. Daniel Jones is back. Gary and Paul, not so much. This is the Snap UK podcast. Week 1, 2024. And we are ready to go. So
very energetic.
I'm really trying to bring it back. I've been at work since 5:30. I'm so tired. But that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. So, with that in mind, here is the Week 1 score roundup with the best impression of James Alexander-Gordon that I can do, which isn't great. Ravens 20, Chiefs 27. Packers 29, Eagles 34. Steelers 18, Falcons 10. Patriots, 16, Bengals 10. Cardinals 28, Josh Allen 34. Tetons 17, Bears defense 24. Texans 29, Colts 27. Jags 17, Dolphins 20. Panthers 10 somehow. Saints 47. Vikings 28. Daniel Jones inspired Giants 6. Raiders 10. Chargers 22. Broncos 20. Seahawks 26. We're nearly there. Cowboys 33. Oh, the Browns 17. Commanders 20. Bakers Bucks 37. Almost at the end now, guys. Rams 20. Lions 26 in overtime. What a finish. And finally, Jets 19. Niners 32. Minus Christian McCaffrey. Guys, John, James, here at Chateau Green. Couple of games each. Let's start talking. What do you want to go with? Who's having first pick of things they want to discuss?
Ladies first, John.
I love it when you start with an arm.
Can we talk about what's going on with Deshaun and the Browns?
It's a good place to start. It seems to be one of the hot topics. We can have a quick vote, and it will be quick because there's only two of you in front of me. All those who think Jameis Winston's starting by week 4, raise your hand.
Raising hands on podcasts.
I know, but I can describe it. Two people just raise their hands, and I make it a full house. This team, on paper, is good.
Actually, I do worry that obviously there's quite a lot of money in Deshaun Watson. I always got the feeling that if they could have traded Jameis Winston away, the Browns, and I still think with players being shit and injured over this first couple of weeks, Jameis is a potential for teams to look into because they're going to end up in another Flacco position where the backup is so much more popular with the players, the fans, and what it does is it gives Deshaun Watson a reason to, my elbow hurts, or, whatever. And he might, I get the feeling the backup will be playing in week 4, no matter who it is, because Deshaun will just think, I'm being paid anyway, I'll just fuck off.
He's not very good, though, is he?
He's rubbish.
He has been poor the whole time in Cleveland. They have won twice as many games without him as they have won with him. Flacco stepped in last season, didn't have Nick Chubb, didn't have 2 of the O-line, still got them into the playoffs, and then they got rid of him basically because of what John's saying. We can't keep this guy around and him be putting pressure on Deshaun. We'll get in failed number 1 overall pick Jameis Winston, who, don't forget, has won a lot of games.
Yeah.
He's entertaining and he's better than, 35, 40% of the quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And one of those is Deshaun Watson. because it is. Flat out, this team, with the receivers they have, would be better with Jameis throwing bombs than with Deshaun Watson throwing 3-yard passes at the line of scrimmage, which is what he's doing.
Absolutely. I mean, he's not been the same since the whole...
Since taking 18 months off voluntarily or otherwise.
Yeah, at Texans occurred. Since that, he started demanding a trade, and then all the illegal massage shenanigans came out. You take this game, 24 out of 45 attempts, 169 yards, 3.8 yard average. That's shockingly bad. 24 out of 45, all right. Why is Stefanski letting him throw it 45 times? Because he can't.
Yeah.
He can't find receivers who are, to your point, he's got good receivers. Amari Cooper's a good receiver. Jerry Jeudy's a good receiver. David Njoku's a good receiver, unfortunately injured now. They've even gone out and got, bit part players like Elijah Moore. These are all good players who can actually catch the ball, but he doesn't seem to be able to find them. His running is it's okay. He does it I think he does it more as a last resort at the moment. His decision making's terrible. He's just a bad quarterback. So you pile on then the new allegation about raping a girl in Texas. And if you're the Browns, you're sitting there going, well, we owe this guy, what is that? He's still got 138 million or something stupid
at
like
least.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the allegation basically is their way out, because if there's any shred of evidence here, and let's be frank, we have to say all these things went away. I don't believe that nothing happened. And I can say that because I'm not accusing, I'm just saying I don't believe anything happened. No. And if someone else is now coming out and reported it, do you know what? This person may or may not be telling the truth, but this is the stink that hangs around him. And if there's a grain of truth in it, I'm afraid the Browns have to snatch it and say, you have to go. You have broken our policies.
This is their get out, both in terms of like, they've got a bad quarterback they're paying a lot of money for. They can save some money by getting rid of him off the back of this. And then now through all the picks they've had to give the Texans, they now have a first round pick again. They can start building this team around someone. James Winston is a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Even with dodgy eyesight, I'd have James Winston over this version of Deshaun Watson.
The players players want to be there for him. When it's the start of the game, it isn't Watson doing the pre-game talk. It's Winston. Winston is there geeing up the players.
Did you see Joel Bitonio, the guard, got knocked to the ground and was squashed? And when Watson went to help him up, and he refused the hand. He did not want Watson to help him up. That's certainly how it appears. It's a bad look. And to what you're saying, basically, he's not respected. No. As far as you can see, he's not respected. In his 4 years with the Texans, his quarterback rating, 112.5 across the 4 years. With the Browns, 87.5 in his 2 seasons starting with the Browns.
Seems high.
104 touchdowns across 4 seasons with the Texans, 14 across 2 seasons with the Browns. Like, nothing good is happening. It's they need to cut their losses. The problem is they bought themselves into a contract that makes it almost impossible. Yeah. So you're going to have an awful situation, if it's true, as their only way out. Yeah. Which is a terrible place to be. But this is why clubs shouldn't be guaranteeing these massive contracts, because you're then leveraging your whole future on one guy who can be injured or misbehaving or whatever.
I completely agree with you that there shouldn't be 100% guaranteed contracts. Completely agree. It's too big a risk, especially in this game. It's fair enough in baseball and in basketball, which aren't as physical. People hurt each other in this game. They go out to hurt each other. Irrespective of that, it was always a bad decision because when they traded for him, he hadn't played for 3 years and he still had all those allegations hanging over him. It was a disastrous decision, and it's come back to bite them even harder.
It's so Browns.
Bad. Yeah.
It's so Browns.
They just got themselves into a position where we were starting to respect them a little bit.
They were likeable.
Yeah, they had a good squad.
Baker got them into the playoffs, and everyone went, do you know what? Fair enough.
Yeah.
And to that point, how good was Baker this week?
Yeah,
I mean, and this is also part of it. Like, they binned off their first overall quarterback, who got them into the playoffs, who was admittedly, as a younger player, up and down. We all saw he had stretches of 4 or 5 games where really didn't look like a quarterback, and then he'd have 3 or 4 games where he was excellent. At the weekend for the Bucks, he absolutely dominated against the Commanders. Now, that Commanders defense would benefit from, Gary, but this is not the point. 37 points they put up. And Baker looks every bit a playoff-ready quarterback again. They're gonna march towards the top of that division, in my opinion. And yet, with the Browns, they'd be fighting at the top of that division, which you would say is a harder division. Mm-hmm. You've got the Steelers' defense. You've got the Ravens, who, regardless of the result, look really, really good. And then you've got the Bengals, who will only improve. And the Browns could be right in there with the mix for the AFC North. And instead, they are going to struggle until they bring Winston in, and then it's a weekly gamble on which Winston shows up.
Yeah, I can't remember who we said on our AFC preview, who the order they finished at AFC North. I'm pretty sure we
all went Browns last.
Did we?
I think we all went Browns last.
I didn't. I went Steelers last.
I think I might have put Steelers last.
Okay.
I definitely went Browns last.
You went Browns last. Well, I will be
right.
I'll be revisiting that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
the thing with Baker, at the moment he's in a hot streak. he is streaky. He's just young Cousins, but when he's hot, he is so fun to watch. And the whole thing is, they got rid of Baker in Cleveland because, for one, he didn't gel with the talent around him. He didn't gel with like Beckham, Landry, and yet by the time they got Watson in to replace him, those players had gone as well.
Yeah.
So it always seemed a bizarre thing because they basically had to retool their offense for another quarterback when they could have, worked with what works with Baker. I mean, you can't just pick up Mike Evans, but there's a great thing from being him mic'd up at the side and you go, mic'd up this weekend going, if he's not double covered, I'm just chucking it to Mike Evans. And mate, that has saved so many bad quarterbacks, but it also got them to a Super Bowl and kept Brady alive for another 2 years. Mate, just keep going. I love watching.
Said it before, say it again. Mike Evans got Johnny Manziel drafted in the first round.
They absolutely did.
Yeah,
he absolutely did.
No doubt about it.
But Godwin was good this week.
Yeah.
Like they are my favourite team in the NFC that I don't think will win the Super Bowl. But I would pay to go and watch the Bucs.
I agree.
And that based on a lot of the evidence of this weekend, there aren't many other NFC teams I would say that about.
No. Jim, do you want to pick a game? Anything you particularly want to pick out from the weekend?
Let's go with the game in Brazil, Packers-Eagles.
No one wants to talk about that. That field was horrendous.
It's the same turf that both the Packers and the Eagles have.
But did they not seem to have covered it in those rubber pellets that we play football on a Tuesday night?
Yeah, those things get everywhere.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
I heard a lot of people talking about this, and my first thought was, that's fine. People in America say what you want about Brazilian fields. I remember watching a Super Bowl where the Eagles couldn't keep upright. So just be careful because what is that, Arizona?
Yeah, I think so.
That was a shithole.
Shocking pitch.
That was shit.
Arizona in general.
Not to mention the amount of injuries that happen at MetLife as well.
At MetLife, guys, do not throw stones. Your house is made of glass.
Absolutely.
But yes.
But
as the game goes,
if Daniel Jones threw stones, would they hit the windows?
No.
Just checking.
Wouldn't make it to the windows. But the real reason for picking this game was Saquon Barkley.
Is that why you want to talk about this game?
Mainly because he's in my fantasy team.
Okay, I'm sure that was impressive. 3 touchdowns, was it not?
3 touchdowns. Two receptions for 23 yards and a touchdown, and then 24 carries, 109 yards and 2 touchdowns.
You didn't read out my little headline I wrote for you. It was really good.
Saquon Barkley to success.
I think I did quite well.
Yeah, some of these headlines are pretty dodgy.
Yeah, some of them are terrible. That was my favourite.
But this was the Saquon that we saw in that first year in the league, admittedly for the Giants. Like, he was dynamic, he was fast, he seems to be on board with the play calling. He makes the Eagles an even more dangerous team.
Now you are looking at 2 runners every time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't take Barkley in any league because I was worried. For fantasy points, the main thing is when it's near the goal line, it's probably going to be Hurts. And no, that wasn't the case this week. I mean, it's week one.
The old tush push didn't look as good, did it?
It won't.
Kelsey's
a
massive miss now.
But see, I disagree. I don't think it will be Hurts now. I think it will be Saquon.
But Saquon, because they can save Hurts.
Exactly. And if you can keep Hurts upright. Now, Hurts wasn't flawless in this game. 278 yards, which was 5th best of the week. 2 touchdowns, 2 not great interceptions. But the team looked fairly dominant against a Packers team that pushed them all the way, but they didn't. It's not like they really looked in trouble. I only watched the highlights. I didn't watch it live, but it looked to me like the Eagles had another gear to go into.
Yeah, I think so.
And the Packers were at full speed. Now, obviously, the biggest problem with this game from the Packers, Jordan Love.
Yeah, and he didn't have a great game anyway. Completion rate was low. He also threw an interception, but that injury, what's it now? Sprained MSL?
Sprained MCL.
MCL.
3 to 6 weeks. They're hoping it's only the 3 because they haven't put him on IR. But that means we get Malik. I've never thrown a touchdown in the NFL. Willis.
Yeah, they're going to sign someone else before.
You reckon? If he's out for more than 3 weeks,
You have to. You would
especially
think in that division as well, where the Vikings look good, the Lions look good.
But we used to say this.
The best defense looked good.
Yeah, the best defense.
We used to say this about them when they had Aaron Rodgers, and then you got to see 6 weeks of Seneca Wallace, and you just think, well, why?
Yeah.
And then we come back to our yearly topic of, are the backups good enough? Do they get enough reps? Malik Willis is a fine prospect still, but he's done nothing in the NFL.
I one pervading thought going across all the games, in that because we mentioned it before we started, all the quarterback play was pretty average at best.
It's week 4 of preseason rather than week 1.
That's my point. None of them play in preseason anymore.
Yeah,
but hardly any of the starters play any drives in preseason. So, do the backups get reps? Well, they do in preseason because no one puts out a starter.
Yeah.
I think a lot of teams looked cold.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to come
really
to one in a
cold,
minute that looks stone cold. But okay, so the Jordan Love thing is a problem. I think if he's only gone for 3 weeks, they won't sign anyone else. I think they'll go with Malik and they'll see what Josh Jacobs can do to carry them. But this, like you say, it's the division.
2-3 games
Lions,
down.
the Vikings.
Yeah.
You've got to have supreme confidence in Love coming back and being able to go from the off. Now, it's not a tear, it's a sprain. But these things get re-damaged. And
the next 3 games, home to the Colts, away to the Titans, home to the Vikings.
2 of those 3 are
winnable.
yeah, you'd hope. Are 2 of those 3 winnable with Malik Willis?
No.
One Titans is. Let's not
I don't know.
Yeah.
At Titans, though.
Yeah, but
With Malik Willis.
With former Titan Malik Willis?
Yeah.
That's the Malik Willis revenge game. I'm taking Malik Willis all day. That's enough Malik Willis talk.
We've seen the other quarterback. He'll be just throwing to anybody on any jersey. Doesn't matter.
The interception of the week, that one.
Oh, that was amazing. I'm going to shovel past it straight to that guy there and watch him run in for a pick 6. Yeah, thank you for the meme, though. Look, the Eagles look every bit as good as they need to keep Nick Sirianni employed.
Yeah.
That's the point. They didn't look cold at all.
Mekhi Becton as well, alive. And
fit. Productive. Yeah,
and fit
absolutely.
for now. But if they can keep him fit, God, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, okay. I mean, so I get a pick of the games then. I can't ignore it. I'm going to go with the Patriots because we might not get many victories to talk about. Now, let's be fair. I don't do this often, but Patriots 16, Bengals 10. The Bengals are the stone coldest of cold teams coming into this weekend because they did not look ready to play. The Patriots had the 3rd best defense in the second half of last year. Now, that's a convoluted stat, but the point is it carried over. The only member of that team who really has gone is Judon. Everybody else is still there, and we've got Gonzalez back. So this defense, the coverage from the defensive backs was brilliant, and that actually gave our much maligned D-line the opportunity to make some pressure on Joe Burrow. The Bengals brought all of this on themselves. Yes. They didn't look ready. They should have got the Jamar Chase deal done. Yes, he turned up. Yes, he played 90% of the snaps.
I still haven't got it done.
Exactly. But how do you not get that done? How do you be less competent than Jerry Jones with CeeDee Lamb?
Aside from Joe Burrow, he is the franchise.
Of course he is. Burrow needs
no
that.
Reason for
I heard another podcast where they were saying, well, these two shouldn't need to practice because they played all through college together. That isn't how it works. It's a different speed. You've got to get back in touch with each other. And it didn't work. Jacoby Brissett did absolutely everything that's required for a bridge quarterback. Don't turn the ball over. Yep. Keep everybody in line. Make sure you don't make too many penalties. Yep. Hand the ball off. Yep. That was what he was told to do.
Big old game from Ramondre Stevenson as well. 25 carries, 120 yards.
But that is what we're going to have to be. The O-line held up perfectly well. Certainly wasn't in the worst half of O-lines this week. And again, other teams were cold.
Yeah. You said it on chat. We're waiting for the Patriots to collapse and the Bengals to suddenly wake up. And I think we all were, really.
It just didn't happen.
Expected. It just didn't click. As soon as they looked like they were about to, all right, here it goes.
The Bengals got a bit unlucky with Gesicki fumbling the ball.
Yep.
That is not, you cannot fumble that ball. And that is the problem with Gesicki. He's caught 2 touchdowns in the last 3 years.
There was the drop as he went into the end zone.
The fumble at the end zone, though.
The fumble was not, but just also
That was the long snapper.
Brilliant defensive play. Like
I think it was Cardona, wasn't it? The long snapper. I think so. Absolutely fantastic heads-up play. If our defence can maintain that level of play, and you're talking 1 or 2 injuries and that goes away, we are far more competitive than people thought. We have moved out the bottom 2 or 3 of every official power ranking you see.
This is going to be one of those. Well, this could be one of those seasons for the Patriots where they do better than we think, and that's because of the sum of the parts.
Yeah,
like, they haven't got that star player, but that collection. And if Jeremiah is as good a coach as he showed on the Sunday, he's pulled it all together.
So
and
here's
building
the thing:
up that team ethos.
They looked far more cohesive than they did in the last 2 years under Belichick.
Absolutely,
and that might only be worth 1 or 2 wins, but for a fan base that spent the last 18 months being told you're terrible, it's nice to see that it's had the right impact so far. He's not going to be the perfect coach yet, but it's better than we've seen from the last 18 months of Belichick.
Yep. Sometimes a fresh voice just is sometimes what you need.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's not very exciting, but like someone who's not going to talk like this.
Do you know what the Bengals did miss, though? Joe Mixon.
Yep.
Yeah.
They definitely missed Joe Mixon. He was racking up 126 yards and touchdowns for the Texans, and they couldn't get anything going, really. You know, they didn't take any big chunk plays on the ground at all.
The longest running play was 16 yards.
Yeah, this is an indictment of Zach Taylor. We bounce back and forth about whether he's any good. You have got to be better than this, opening up against one of the worst 4 or 5 teams in the league. Have to be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's all on him, though.
No, but
you got we mentioned it with the Jamar Chase contract malarkey. They haven't replaced Joe Mixon. Zach Moss has come in, and Zach Moss was never the guy in Buffalo.
Yeah, he needs to be part of a committee. He has. Yeah. He's one of the streaky quarterbacks. He has 3 or 4 games in a row. He's brilliant, but then he'll disappear.
And aside from Joe Burrow rushing it 4 times, Chase Brown rushed it 3 times, and that's it. And I know they're chasing the game,
but they weren't miles behind.
They weren't chasing a big score.
We only scored 16 points.
Yeah.
It was nice to see Joey Sly put some points up because I can't pretend I was enamoured with the signing of Joey Sly. John, is there another game you'd like to pick out?
Can I talk about Jags and the Dolphins?
Oh, you can.
Because
I know you love the Jags.
Do you know what? I'm all for the Jags this year because I've got Brian Thomas in my fantasy leagues. In every fantasy team, I've picked him up because I always think you can't win without having a sly rookie. But Tyreek Hill had an eventful day.
Yeah, I mean, getting arrested or getting pulled over on the way to the ground by the police, and then they put on the ground.
The police pulled over Calais Campbell, Tyreek Hill, and somebody else. Bizarrely, all 3 black men driving very expensive cars. Who'd have thought the American police system had issues?
It's not a good look, is it? If you watch the video,
yeah, it's very heavy-handed for what has Tyreek Hill's been accused of. So they started really slowly. The Jags
17-0 up.
Yeah, Jags came out, and it was like an absolute
Jonnu Smith.
That's it.
He's also not a small guy.
Not a small bloke.
No, this is 3 large men who happen to be black that the police seemingly decided they needed to pull over. Yeah. Anyway, just reiterating your point.
Yes. It was like a microcosm of last season for the Jags.
Yeah.
They looked brilliant and then stopped. And it turns out like Tyreek Hill still is a cheat code, even with his,
he'd have caught some of those passes with his handcuffs still on.
Yeah. Like, the guy's incredible. Devon Ainchain, he might be the guy, guys. He is really good. I'm worried about injury with him, but when he is on the pitch, he is going to make people miss. As long as they can keep it warm, I don't think there's a limit to this Dolphins other than the winter.
Praying for global warming.
Yeah. But no, they are.
It was wonderful to see Mike McDaniel come out and address the issue the way he did as well, pointing out that he'll never know how that feels. But just take a second to think, when you pull those guys over and then Calais Campbell steps out of one of those cars, at what point do you not go, "You're all right, guys, carry on, gents"?
Also, like, let's face it, we've seen Calais Campbell, like,
Nicest man in football.
He literally is the nicest guy in football. Yes, he is massive, tremendous reach,
Massive length.
yeah. But yeah, every time you see him, he just looks like the nicest guy.
Yeah.
He is the nicest guy.
Yeah.
He
He literally probably just stopped, saw that his mate was in trouble, like, oh, we're going to see what's going on here. Just to help out, so
Crazy.
cool the situation down a little bit, as you'd expect a 6'9" big black guy to perhaps do. And then they just turn on him, and suddenly he's being arrested as well.
And Jonnu Smith's the same.
Joke, yeah.
His reputation is one of being like a really gentle giant, and yet it's just insane. So
I think a lot of them, the
Been
police
suspended.
been suspended.
but they've
Right,
applied for
right,
reinstatement. They're claiming that there was some pushback from the players. Well, do you know what? If somebody pulled me over without cause, even with cause, they started manhandling me like
the
that.
only pushback, in inverted commas, was Tyreek Hill doing up his window.
Yeah.
That's literally, he did up his window
mad.
because he got annoyed with them. You know, all right, you can say, all right, they didn't know what was going on at that point because the windows were tinted.
Yeah.
That's a lame excuse.
But to what John was saying, not only was the game a microcosm of the Jags from last year, but this was a microcosm of America.
Yeah.
And that's a really sad thing. Sometimes we don't get it right in this country, but we're still way ahead of how it is in America, in my opinion. Now, as a white guy. But I'm just saying.
For the game, though, it was nice to see Jalen Phillips back on the pitch
Yep.
because they missed him the end of last season.
They did.
They still need some bodies, like Bradley Chubb, still to come back.
yeah.
I
other
still
players.
think Pedersen's in trouble. To go 17 up and not be able to score a single point in the second half.
Yeah,
To not be able to keep up when if you're given a 17-point lead against any team in the NFL, any competent team should be able to keep that and win by 3.
So
It's
it was the fumbles that killed them in the end, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Of
Travis
course,
Etienne
but-
fumbled it literally going into the end zone.
Yeah.
And then the Dolphins, suddenly, that's when the Dolphins, I think,
Yeah,
realised
they
could
turned
whip-
from
they
there.
turned it around.
Absolutely. But come on. This is poor again, and I don't think Pedersen's having quite the effect to get them over the line that they
I
need.
think the only issue is, like, who else? Gary was who else are you going to get?
Sure, maybe, but you should be looking at least. As long as it's not Urban Meyer, you can't go backwards. Jim, do you want to take another one, or do you want me to dive in? What do you want?
Can we talk about the worst team in football?
Hang on, which one?
The Panthers.
Yes, we can.
Because that was an embarrassment.
Yeah, losing by 37 against the Saints. Dennis Allen's Derek Carr-led Saints put up 47 points on your ass. That is
And they made the Saints look good after, the few days after I'd gone, nope, they're going to finish bottom, they're shit, they're terrible. I'm then left there thinking and going,
They still could, but not with this Panthers team in that division.
I expected there to be progress with this Panthers team. Like, there are parts around him. Like, they brought in Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Leggett. They've still got Adam Thielen. They got some decent runners in Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. But Bryce Young...
That will never not be funny.
yeah. But Bryce Young was just... He literally looked like a high school quarterback flung straight into the NFL in both his stature, which we've said about before, but also then actually what he was doing with the football. He didn't look comfortable at all.
I likened him before we started today as a combination between first year Sam Darnold and only year Deshaun Kaiser. He is walking into trouble.
Yeah.
He's looking for twice as much time in the pocket as you're ever going to get. And when he does get to throw the ball, he is massively overthrowing players who are open.
Yeah,
It's like the receivers aren't great, but they were creating a yard or two of separation, and he was missing them by another yard or 3.
But the thing is, in the NFL, that's all you have. You
Of course.
don't get the big windows that they're having.
But
in
he's
the
not
college
adjusting
game.
to the speed
But
of
he
the game.
can't, no. And it's now, what was it? We say he's 2-15.
He's 2-15 across 17 starts. Let me tell you how that compares to some other players currently in the NFL in similar positions. Last year's darling, Josh Dobbs, 14 career starts, 3-11. Not great, but he looked competent.
Yeah.
He looked better than that stat appears.
Let's face it, a lot of the games he gets is like he literally shows up on the Friday and he's playing on the Sunday as well.
Yeah. So Bryce Young is 0.118 as a starter. Josh Dobbs 0.214. Here's a player who's similar number of games, 20 starts, 5 wins, 15 defeats. So that's 1 win in 4. Want to guess who that is? Currently a backup in the NFL.
Zach Taylor.
No, used to play for the Niners.
Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins. So
Jimmy Garoppolo had a few
similar.
more wins than that.
Sam Howell was another one. 18 starts, 5 wins, 13 defeats. But these players have looked competent. They may not look brilliant. They may not look good. But they look like they're
better than him.
Exactly. And you can go around the league. Aidan O'Connell isn't starting under Gardner Minshew. 10 starts, 5 wins, 5 defeats. Philip Walker. Remember him?
No.
PJ Walker.
PJ
Oh,
Walker,
PJ
yeah.
Walker.
PJ Walker,
I know
9
PJ Walker. I
starts.
don't know, it's Philip.
9 starts, 5 wins, 4 defeats. And he hasn't looked great, but still looks better than Bryce Young. There's zero progress.
Yeah.
It's not good.
What would worry? Bryce Young's a worry, obviously. What worries me more is the fact that the defense was terrible as well.
And it's getting worse because Derek Brown's out now.
Yeah.
But he's out for the season.
Yeah.
Brownie's gone. He might be their best player.
It was Jamal Williams' touchdown. He literally walked past about 7 players. I don't think any of them attempted to tackle him. Now, he is a big running back, but you got to try and stop him. It was literally hot knife through butter.
What can they do to turn the former first pick and the team in general around?
I honestly don't know.
I think it's rebuild on rebuild. I see the Panthers picking 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And I think
based
they'll be
on this
picking another
performance,
quarterback.
yeah.
This is going to be, not quite 1 and done, but 2 and done, and you're moving on. And this is how franchises get worse. Yeah. This is not how they get better.
I mean, with the owner as well, I don't see this franchise getting better anytime soon. I think this is going to be a franchise that in 5-10 years, we're sitting here going, God, they're one of the worst run franchises in the league. They are the new Jets, Browns, Texans. They're that type of organisation now, where it's just like, I don't give them
any
hope.
They've gone in less than 10 years from Super Bowl appearance, all right, it didn't go to plan, to
But they were 15 and 1 that year.
Yeah. And this is the issue. They haven't got any of the decisions from the top down correct in the last few years at all. Okay, I'll just go straight in with it then. This is my other pick. Vikings 28, Giants 6. We've waited till the second round, John, to get here. This was about as ugly as it gets. Not because you lost to the Vikings. The Vikings are going to be a decent team. Aaron Jones, by the way, elite.
Who would have thought it?
Yeah.
But let's not beat around the bush here. Daniel Jones just got outplayed, outschooled by Sam Darnold, and it's not even that, right? We've taken the mick before, and that's fine. But we've also said, well, he can run, and the weapons are bad, and the O-line hasn't always been great. Do you know what? There were no excuses in this game. He was just flat out one of the worst quarterbacks on week 1. It might only be Bryce Young that was worse. Maybe Kirk Cousins. He was pretty terrible this weekend. But Daniel Jones was
I look at that Van Ginkel interception, and I think Bryce Young doesn't do that.
No, I think you might be right. I think he probably takes a sack, but he doesn't throw the ball into the arms of the waiting defensive player.
So, for years...
This is, by the way, this is on record. This is the first time John is going to properly lay into Daniel Jones.
Oh, fucking... Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting the popcorn for this.
Well, for years...
You've been fair on him, right?
I've been fair. I don't think he's good. I don't think... But I was always like, well, there's mitigating circumstances. The line is appalling, whatever else. The line of this weekend was fine. Do you know what? There were times... there was one play I watched, and at that point, I was just like, we're already eliminated from the playoffs, guys. Because the O-line gave him about 3 or 4 seconds. There were players free. And Daniel Jones just ran straight into the defensive line. And you're like, we've got neighbours who, I think he's going to be great when we finally get a fucking quarterback. Slayton, I don't think it bad. I think we've got 2 passable tight ends. I actually don't mind Singletary as a running back. I think, he can do some damage. But it doesn't matter. The guy's a fucking clown show.
Do you know what? I've still got my chart open from when I was looking at Bryce Young. Here's my favourite thing that I just noticed. Daniel Jones, 62 career starts, 23 wins, 38 defeats, 1 draw, .379. just below him in this list. Sam Darnold, 57 starts, 22 wins, 35 defeats, .386. He's worse than Darnold, and Darnold we have slated.
Yeah.
Like, he's fallen behind he's worse than Mariota. Like, he's really fallen off here.
It's mad to think that because we beat the Vikings in a playoff game, it's made us worse for 2 seasons.
Yes,
It's true, because you committed everything, and this is the problem.
I don't mind the Barkley going, because I think with Barkley we were in a lose-lose situation. We either lose Barkley, and by losing Barkley means he can go anywhere, and it turns out he goes to the Eagles, which, as a fan sucks, but I don't blame him going to
a winning franchise.
A winning franchise.
Yeah, you get it.
And but if we pay to keep him, then of course everyone's going to go, what's the point of paying $15 million for a guy who's probably going to get you 900 yards, 5 touchdowns? Because the whole thing is that we have absolute. I know, but some people aren't a big fan of Daboll. I think he's all right.
I do as well.
We have hamstrung him with this absolute fucking monstrosity of a quarterback who plays like a child.
It's true. It's so bad.
It's so embarrassing to watch.
This is the first time you've been properly angry about this. We've tried to bait you before.
Yeah.
You've always been like, no, look, he's doing this. He's doing better than this.
Give him a chance.
And you've been beyond fair.
Yeah, I have been beyond fair. I've been really, really
biased,
placid about the whole thing. I was not happy with the contract,
and that is now biting.
And that is gonna. And
who's the backup? Tommy DeVito and who?
Tommy DeVito and
Drew Lock. I mean, that is a coin flip.
I would be on the phone to Cleveland saying, "Look, we need some good vibes, man."
I'm telling you, it's going to be Ryan Tannehill.
He said he only wants to go to a contender, and the Giants are not that
no.
contender.
So the Packers, then that's where he wants to go.
The Packers, anyway.
But I mean, somebody, because you are right. Daboll's got till week 4. And if they are not 2-2, he is dropping Daniel Jones, because this is if he doesn't have 8-9 or 7-10 record at worst, I think he's struggling.
So next 3 games at Commanders, at Browns, home to the Cowboys.
With a decent quarterback, that's 2 wins and a hammering. But it's 2 wins there, and do you know what? You're probably going to be 0-4 or 3-1. 1-3, sorry.
1-3, yeah.
Because I think you're better than the Commanders. It's just whether or not your quarterback shows up.
I think the game 3 sort of career off between Watson and Daniel Jones. Game 3 was the Browns, did you say?
Yeah.
Watson and Jones in a career off for that game.
One of them isn't starting week 4.
One of them isn't starting week 4.
I like that, John. I like that.
But yeah,
Tommy DeVito went 3-3, by the way. Now, it was helped by the fact you had Saquon. And this is the problem. I don't think he's the answer.
The thing is, Tommy DeVito played like a guy with no pressure in the world because he didn't have any pressure. He was...
At this point, though, Tommy DeVito aside, because I don't think he's an answer, but Drew Lock, right, still has some unlockable potential. Right? Yeah, you like that, right? And he has an arm. Like, he can throw the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Would you not, if you were Daboll, be saying, I've got Malik Neighbours, who, even with Daniel Jones, looked good.
Yeah, he did.
And I don't have a huge amount else, but I've got this guy who's got some starts. I've got to give it a go. Is it not Drew Lock's team from week 4 on?
Yep. I think it is.
It has to be.
You can only go up. You can't go down.
I think week 4 is generous. I think even next week.
Could
Daniel Jones.
Right. He's already coming out to have to say, it's Jones's job next week. And you're
that's fine.
If
he has a game like that again,
bad.
And especially
it's gross incompetence to at least not consider.
Game.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Interdivisional game, I hate it. Because as well, we've already mentioned sort of the Bucs and Commanders game. I thought the Commanders quarterback started oddly, but I thought there was actually some promise there.
Well, he can run.
Yeah,
he can move. I don't know about much else.
He can tumble as well.
But yeah, I'm I'm already worried that I think it's going to be potentially 1-3, 0-4.
Are you right up there with the Panthers for the number 1 pick?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm going to be asking every week to our college correspondent, Jimothy, to say, can you tell me about some good quarterbacks coming through, please?
And then you'll pick Shedeur Sanders because it sounds like the name you should pick, and he'll be rubbish.
We'll pick someone from a college that no one's ever fucking heard of because
Colorado State.
Because he once was, mates with a bloke who trained Eli Manning.
Is it possible that you can reopen Hofstra University after Spurgeon the surgeon? Look, we're not going to get to touch on all the games, but we should point out there are a couple of teams who've got some real hope despite losses in week 1. One of those for me would be the Ravens, a toe too far, but basically they pushed the Chiefs all the way. And it's a bit like the Mahomes-Allen battle. Like, Allen seems to come on the short side of it, but it's not really down to him. A lot of it is just luck and who gets the ball last and whatever. So the Ravens, they'll be fine. They looked good.
Still my tip for Super Bowl.
Yeah, I still really like them. I thought the Texans, right? Yeah. They pushed the team that the Colts. They've pushed the team that we all picked. The Texans should be walking that.
Absolutely. I think we got the very good and the very bad from Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. What did he compete? 45% of his passes or something?
Yeah.
He completed 9 passes.
19. But for 212 yards.
One of them was a 65-yard touchdown.
Amazing.
Joe Flacco on the sideline said, I've never seen a ball thrown that far. That's Joe Flacco, who made his career out throwing the ball that far.
I know. But then on the flip side, he overthrew rookie wide receiver Adonai Mitchell for 2 potential touchdowns.
Of course, but don't forget, this was his 5th start. And what did they say he'd started between high school and between college and NFL? Was it 15 starts?
Yeah, it's literally 15 starts.
Yeah. So the only thing I made a note on Richardson, is it sustainable or is he RG3 2.0? And I just can't decide yet.
Yeah. The other thing I'd say, Jonathan Taylor didn't look great. 16 carries, 48 yards.
No,
it's a good defense though.
Yeah.
It's week 1.
Yeah,
I think the Texans are really good, and it was great to see the Colts pushing this far.
Yeah. A mitigating factor, I thought the Texans looked a bit cold, and I think
if this had happened in week 6, you think the gap would be great?
I think the gap is big.
I agree. A couple of others to run through. I think the Rams actually have plenty to be happy about. Stafford looks better than he did all of last season.
Yeah, I think
he was pretty good.
They lost in overtime to the Lions. And to be fair, by the end of that game, the Rams looked cooked. As soon as the coin toss was done, the Lions knew they were winning. They just kept handing the ball to Montgomery, and he absolutely battered them.
They've got a few injuries in the offensive line, which could be a concern for the Rams in the next couple of games.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I thought they looked good. They're just a well-coached side, aren't they? Obviously, Puka Nacua out for 4 weeks.
Yeah, but we've seen the Rams before. Somebody else will step up. Cup looked fit.
Cup looked good.
I don't think they have a lot to be concerned about from that point of view. But the main thing for me was Stafford looked back to the year they won the Super Bowl. He looked good, and he hasn't looked that fresh since.
Do you know what I love about the Lions? You look at their box score, that split between David Montgomery and Jamal Gibbs.
Yeah, it was within 2 or 3 carries.
Well, 11 and 17. But still, both of them got a touchdown. Yeah. They are both going to get a lot of yards this year. And that's
it's great when you've got Montgomery as one of your lead backs.
Jameson Williams as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was brilliant. That's what they need him to be. So another team that lost, but I think have some hope, and it's pinning it a bit on it, but the Cardinals. Now they were up 17-0.
In Buffalo.
You should be able to hold on to that, but Josh Allen did Josh Allen things and dragged that Bills team back into competition because they weren't in the game. The Cardinals were not so good in the second half. That's a concern, but they certainly looked like they can push more than they have done for the last couple of seasons. If Kyler can continue in this vein, I think the Cardinals have got more of a chance than I hoped. I really thought they'd be at bottom of that division by some distance, 3 or 4 games. Not on this showing. But equally, the Bills won, and they should be glad because that isn't the best they'll play all season by a long way.
That first half might be one of their absolute
putrid.
Deers.
It was putrid.
It was
another team that came out cold.
For Kyler, when he's running, it is so fun to watch. But once again, there were times you see it and you see receivers free. There was one where I think Marvin Harrison was in about 20 yards of space.
Oh, it's right at the end of the game.
They could have, and
at least they could have tied and then won the game for that.
exactly.
He didn't see him. He was 25 yards clear.
Yeah, it's the same old knock on Kyler. Like unless he's sort of scampering like a baby sort of around the pitch, he has limitations for me. I love watching him.
Yeah.
Once again, I'd pay to go watch Kyler.
Basically, I heard somebody else say that there's no wonder he didn't pick out Marvin Harrison because there was more than one man stood in his way. And that is what it appears.
That's the problem. I'd also love to know how many of his plays are by the playbook versus improvisation.
Half if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
think that's a big issue.
Yeah, I'm not, but you have to say the Cardinals were competitive.
Yeah.
The Steelers won. That's all you can say. 6 field goals from Boswell. Boswell was far and away kicker of the week. Brilliant. Oh, come on now. 6 from 6 on that team.
Yeah, I mean...
Brandon Aubrey's brilliant, but...
The 49ers kicker got that as well.
Yeah, he got 6, but that's on the Niners. They were closer. Boswell was absolutely iced because he knew we're not scoring any touchdowns today. Everybody knew that. It was a bit odd to see Russ Wilson out of the game, but in full garb.
That was weird. That's John Terry-esque.
Yeah, that's... yeah, full kit wanker.
Yeah.
But... The bigger thing from that game, Kirk Cousins does not look ready to play.
No.
So slow.
So slow. Now, I had to pick... I was looking for who was one of my biggest winners of the week. Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to be looking at that thinking, I might be in here. Like, all right, it's one game, but Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins had the same injury. I know Cousins was later, but not by that much. No, and he looks months behind Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely.
But
that's got to be a concern. Kyle Pitts got a touchdown.
Kyle Pitts did get a touchdown, which justified me selecting him in my team.
Drake London did not.
No, not a great game. 49ers, we said, crushed the Jets. I was hoping, I don't like the Jets, but I thought, well, maybe if Rodgers is going to be back, they'll be more entertaining. No, and I think we're going to get to who's on the hot seat. We've discussed it before the season, but... Robert Saleh, you've got some coaching to do.
Like the 49ers defense was just unbelievable.
Defense was brilliant.
Fred Warner was incredible in that game.
But they signed Aaron Rodgers to be able to undo teams like this, and all they've given him is Garrett Wilson, who's brilliant. But what else? Because that is not Mike Williams that was key Mike Williams, is it?
No, and having to talk up Alan Lazard in the press conference.
Fucking Alan Lazard. He's not very good.
He's got 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, but he could have had 4. Like, he's not great.
He does make drops.
Okay.
Can I mention, I think it's the one game we haven't mentioned.
There's 3. Yes. There's 3 games we haven't mentioned, John. I've not ticked off my list. Go on, which one are you going for?
So, Broncos-Seahawks was one of the worst games of football.
A double safety game. A double safety game, this.
Yeah.
Incredible.
At that point, I'd forgotten that the Giants had had scored 2 field goals at the time. But I was like, have the Broncos' defensive line scored more points for their team than the Giants' offense, the Bears' offense, and anyone on the Steelers but Chris Boswell? And yes, they had. It was a bizarre. They obviously lost their right tackle really in the game, but yeah, it was an absolute slop fest, and I loved it.
Bo Nix for the Broncos. Now, look, he was completing. He completed 61.9% of his passes, 2 interceptions, but he only attempted 12 throws of 10 or more yards, and 2 of those ended in interceptions.
Yeah.
So I still think he's going to be good.
He'll be fine.
But this team is still a work in progress. I could not get over the fact that Sean Payton was on the sideline looking like Elton John. Those rose-tinted glasses were doing nothing for him. 2 games that we haven't hit anything on. We'll clear Raiders, Chargers. The Harbaugh effect was there to see. It wasn't pretty, but Antonio Pierce threw this away by not going for it on 4th and 1
that was
inside the Chargers half
decision.
when they were down. with 4 or 5 minutes to go, punting the ball away. This is 2024.
I think it might be more than that. I think it might 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, there wasn't long, sure, but long enough that
long enough if you trusted defense.
You've got to make that yard,
exactly,
and you've got to keep the ball, burn another 4 minutes, and score. And he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Now, I've advocated for him taking them on because they should have done it with Rich Bisaccia. They've got to bring someone in there who knows the atmosphere there. But that was poor coaching. Probably cost them a shot at the game.
Yep.
And the final game there.
Hang on, sorry, just on that one.
Yeah.
Joe Alt, the tackle.
Yes.
Absolutely flawless.
I know
display.
Crosby got 2 sacks.
Not
against him.
But not against him.
He was 0 for 19 against Joe Alt.
Crosby must have switched sides because he was getting absolutely
He
no luck
had to be moved around because Joe Alt was just brilliant. He didn't allow a pressure.
Yeah.
He didn't allow a
I
pressure.
changed my offensive rookie of the year to be Joe Alt.
Yeah. Mate,
He was incredible. Absolutely brilliant. Let's get to one of the most woeful games by 2 quarterbacks that you will see all season, if not in the last 10 years.
Of course, yeah.
So
Because we have mentioned him.
we have mentioned Will. I can't throw the ball to my own team, Levis. But let's not forget on the other side of the ball, your first number 1 overall pick was tragically bad. Now the Bears won, and the stat from the weekend was who was the last number 1 pick to win on their debut, and it was David Carr, 2002. But
he didn't throw any interceptions.
He didn't really do anything with the ball.
He didn't do anything, no. But
I feel I could have effectively played in this game and just allowed the defense to win the game for me.
14 completions of 29 for 93 yards.
Ooh. Do you know if you doubled that and added 10, that's still 10 fewer yards than Sam Darnold got on his debut. Like, he was historically bad in terms of actual yards. Now, he was mobile.
Yeah.
Which is, as advertised.
Had a few runs.
But the Bears owe all of this to their defense and more of it to Will Levis, who just threw the game away for the Titans. And this is going to be the Titans' problem. That is, 11 starts now for Levis, and he's had 1 good game.
I was going to say,
He
he's
didn't
not
start that
very good.
No, I think you're right. I don't think he did.
That was the Tannehill started that game. He just came in and balled out.
Yeah, he had that 1 good start. Oh, he's brilliant. No, there's a reason he didn't go to the top of the first round with the likes of CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Because he's not very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was... coming into the weekend, NFL teams were 2 and 306 when trailing by 2 scores in the first half and failing to score an offensive touchdown across 4 quarters. They are now 3 and 306 because the Bears pulled this off.
Yeah, we knew the Bears defense was good. It was good last year.
Yeah, of course, but oh my.
Yeah.
Like, they will be hoping for more and it's 1 game. But this is a bit how Bryce Young started, and they should be thinking, how are we going to surround this with more talent? We have to help him. It's just 1 game. It's just 1 game.
They've got a lot of talent around him already, though.
But
older talent.
I'm going to concentrate on the rookies this year, having had my slander thrown at me. But from the 1 and 2, Jalen Daniels, who wasn't brilliant, looked far more comfortable than Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Fair? Right, okay. Now, that is all of the games. We're going to take a break, and then there's a couple of things we need to get to. A bit of a conversation about our Hall of Good and how we're going to nominate players for that, and we'll see you in the second half. Well, we're back from a slash, and that's good. I mean, I was listening to some Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
What did you think? Bizarre.
I just stabbed a guy.
We need to discuss the impact of Dak's new contract. So... £1 billion guaranteed, or whatever it was. What was the stupid figure that they ended up paying? Bear in mind, they're paying this to the 7th best quarterback in the league. But go on.
Guarantees are $231 million.
231 million.
240 million in total.
And you notice how neither of you argued with me when I said he might be the 7th best quarterback in the league.
No, I agree. I think he's a good quarterback.
I think he's good.
Is this just basic supply and demand? Is this not wanting to gamble your franchise on whatever comes out of the draft next year?
Yeah. You can. They have a 90-year-old owner who wants to see them win a Super Bowl. He can't go in for a rebuild.
No.
I know people, we get excited about the draft because it's new, it's fresh.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's the biggest lottery in sport.
Of course it is,
absolutely. Dak, is the best in-season quarterback and the worst postseason quarterback.
But who does that sound like? Who does that absolutely emulate? Tony Romo.
Yeah.
Tony Romo was brilliant until December every year and then fell apart.
I just think the Cowboys, when it comes to the postseason recently, you can't look past the coaching. It's been shit.
It's been awful.
And that's fine, but Mick McCarthy,
Bastard.
right? If you look at his records of actual regular season football, he's one of the best. He's one of the top 10 coaches of the last 25 years.
I'm not being funny. He's had Aaron Rodgers at the Packers.
Absolutely.
And, love them
But
or,
even with
love
this
them or
team-
hate them, the Cowboys have got a good team. They've always had a good team.
No other
while
team
he's been there.
has gone 12-4 for 3 consecutive years and not made the championship game.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's on the coaches. I can't stand Jerry Jones myself, but even as general manager, you look at the roster he's put together, most of the time,
it's pretty good. Yeah.
it's usually pretty good.
I think even this year, it's not the best, but it's a top 10 roster. The defense probably you could argue top 4. I'm trying to think of the one play I can put down to Dak was the one against, was it you guys, where
where they didn't get to the line of scrimmage.
didn't get to the line of scrimmage.
He didn't give the ball to the referee, did he? He put the ball straight down.
And the refs have to touch it.
The refs have to touch it first.
That's the one, because the other one, the other embarrassing plays that have lost them games have been because
Zeke was playing at the centre at one point. Yeah. And there was a line of one.
A line of one, and just out-coached themselves, out-fought themselves, and whatever. It's all on the team. So it's not on Dak, but admittedly, should have done this earlier. Don't have to then. You probably save yourself $10 million a year.
So the contract itself, who does that carry the biggest impact for? Because a lot of the players have had extensions recently. So you've got Prescott, $231 million guaranteed. Deshaun, obviously, $230 million. We know that's a bust. Burrow, $219 million guaranteed. Herbert, $218.7. And the only other with 200 guaranteed, I think, is Lawrence. So who's going to be the next? Because you've got Purdy, who's the most underpaid.
Yeah. Purdy's the next one, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he has to be.
Yeah.
Because I've not seen anything to make me think the Niners won't do that. You're going to have to.
No, I can be. I was laughing because it's it'd just be fucking typical, isn't it? We'll drag it out until 2 days before the season starts, and then we'll sign him. Because that's what the 49ers do. I hope they don't. I hope literally as the season ends, there's a signature on the line.
Yeah, I would think, barring major mishap, I think you have to get it done. Because I
think this might be one where they generally do. Because if you look at the other players who they have taken their time over getting the contracts sorted over the last few years, Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, George Kittle.
Trent Williams.
Sorry?
Trent Williams?
Yeah, and Trent Williams.
Right.
No, take Trent Williams out.
God, they're going to have to shoot Ricky Pierce all again.
Yes, Nick Bosa is a brilliant player, but teams aren't built on a defensive end. Teams aren't built on a wide receiver. Teams aren't really left tackles, but again, very important, but it's always the quarterback, and they can't have that same strategy of leaving it to the last minute, giving them an ultimatum as this or the Steelers. So, they have to get it done quickly.
Purdy better than Dak or not better than Dak?
I don't think you can compare because I think he's...
Dak?
I think they're very similar.
I think they're similar.
I think Purdy's in a better system.
Yeah, the system flatters Purdy a lot.
Yeah. For me, they're like 6 and 7 in the league, whichever way.
I think the next quarterback that affects is actually probably Mahomes as well.
You reckon he gets re-upped again?
Because he's now the 13th best paid quarterback.
Yeah, madness.
And,
that's a fair shout.
But it's always going to shake out. There's somewhere along the line, the NFL are going to have to instigate something whereby you can't renegotiate a deal for so many years, because otherwise this is going to be a constantly moving. It moves so fast.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. Or Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk, it's always said there's going to be a quarterback which, instead of it being a base figure of like 200 million or 50 million a year, will be, right, we're going to pay you X percentage of the salary cap.
Yeah.
So as the salary cap goes up,
you just keep getting paid.
Just naturally increases. which I think sounds pretty sensible. That way, they almost guarantee that they're always going to be in that top 5, top 10 of.
Yeah.
And the teams know what they're dealing with.
And how long before the salary cap becomes one for the quarterbacks and one for all the rest of the team?
That's the other thing, isn't it?
I think it has to at some point.
Or there'll be you can have one player that's void. It's
like in the NBA,
yeah.
the max deal.
Max, super max contracts. Yeah.
Max, super max. Max Crosby.
Yeah. No, he's not the super max.
Okay.
He's about the only one you would pay on that team.
True. You mentioned earlier, before we move on, the Brown injury. Any other major injuries from week 1? Got Jordan Love, obviously, we've done that.
Puka
Nakua's knee.
2 of the Rams' offensive line have also
gone down reserve. Injured.
Note Boom and someone else.
And I was saying to you guys, before we started today, we had the first cut casualty, which was Commies kicker Cade York, back after a year in the wilderness, having been drafted in 2022 and then cut by the Browns after a bad season. Missed 2 field goals, immediately cut after the game. Dan Quinn basically said, you don't keep plugging away when things aren't working, you just move on.
One game.
Well,
if you don't pay much for your kicker, though, you can't expect much. Me and Paul were talking about the weekend. I said before, if you look on fantasy, the only people that were really, really performing across were the kickers, because it's now become a thing where for Moody, for Boswell, for
Brandon
Aubrey, Fairbairn, Butker, not Tucker.
Tucker didn't have a good game,
but for there's about 7 or 8 kickers. Tucker, I'm sure, will probably come good again. But 50-yard has just seemed automatic now.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Tucker.
Yeah,
because I drafted him in fantasy.
Same.
For the first time ever, and I was really excited about having Justin Tucker, and I fear I might have Kamara'd him.
Yeah, I think I've taken
at some point, for the first time in 10 or 11 years since he came into the league, you suddenly aren't the best. Remember, we had 15 years of Janikowski being the kicker that could score from 60 yards or whatever, and then Tucker came along.
Vinatieri.
And Vinatieri.
Prater.
You've had all these players. I was trying to think of who the other Patriots kicker was. Goskowski.
Yeah.
Like, and they come and go. Tucker's had the longest span. Janikowski's the other one that springs to mind because he was around since 2000 when Brady was drafted. But when they go, they go.
Yeah.
And that's it. I think that bell is coming. Now, it may be false dawn, but he's not going to be as consistent now. I don't know how old he is, but he's been around for a while.
All he's got to do is kick a ball.
Austin Seibert, by the way, is the player touted to be kicking for the Commanders this week. Remember him? I think he used to be a Browns kicker.
That bodes well.
They've all been Browns kickers.
Or Chargers kickers.
There is that. It's not it's not ideal. But yeah, I just wanted to get to that. Couple of things we need to fill in. Sweetest player of the week. I think we're in accord on this.
It's the absolute bomb from Richardson to Pierce.
Mm-hmm. The one that he couldn't even get into.
So he slips to start it. And from that position, manages to throw it 60.
It's 60 yards in the air, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was
incredible.
Just to watch it. There's very few times you're watching it live and actually like you're sort of speechless. And that was one of them. So I think consensus.
Biggest balls of the week.
I'm going to give it to Josh Allen.
Okay.
Just for that stupid run.
For helicoptering into the end zone. Absolutely. That is good.
I was going to give it as my sweetest player, but I like the passing rush. So I was like, I'm going to reframe this.
And as well, we shouldn't be sort of ignoring how bad the Bills were in the first half.
Yeah.
And for Allen to, put the team on his back.
Literally.
That showed some balls, which, to be fair, Allen's never really been the one shirking it.
Shirking his balls?
Shirking, yeah.
You don't want to do that. No. Anyone you'd like to nominate, or are you happy with the Allen?
I'm happy with Allen because I can't think of anyone else, any like coaching decisions that I thought were.
There weren't many, were there?
No, there weren't. Here's one. I would nominate for biggest balls of the week the guy that went, yes, Mr. Campbell, hands behind the back, please. because like I say, at that point, I'd be like, no, you're all good. good. It's,
Yeah.
can you sign this for me?
So I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, exactly. So that guy's got some tremendous cojones on him. That's all I will say. But in terms of players, yeah, like the Josh Allen dive into the end zone was great, and he knows he's going to get injured doing that.
Yeah.
And he has. He's hurt his hand, doesn't he? Yeah.
Long throwing hand, isn't it?
Yeah.
But can I also mention as a contender for sweetest play, the likely touchdown where he stops just with the goal line, emulating an old Lamar Jackson play.
Yeah,
I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, it was. It was very good. Okay. Best and worst of the weekend. I said before, I think Penix has come out this weekend glowing because of Cousins, but we'll see how that goes. Beyond Daniel Jones and Will Levis, Caleb Williams, some of the quarterbacks were bad, but who had the worst weekend? Yeah. Is it Bryce Young or is it David Tepper?
Well, yeah, it's David Tepper because
I
that
think
team is
they
just
can't
crap.
even sell tickets, can they?
No.
No, I think it's Tepper. That's where I was going with it. It's not working at all.
What's the Munich game that everyone's taking a piss out of? It's Panthers.
Giants.
Panthers Giants, yeah.
What a game. I thought we got it rough watching Jags Pats.
Yeah.
I've seen some parts of Twitter call it payback for like World War II.
That's harsh.
And yeah, but
World War II wasn't that bad.
I know.
No. Best outcome of the weekend? Who had the best outcome from this weekend? Who do we think? I think, reputationally, Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Because everyone's gone, hang on, put half-decent players around him. And
a decent system.
Baker.
I was going to say Baker.
Baker for
sure.
Yeah.
Baker looks so good because it's so shown up how bad Watson is.
Yeah, that's true.
You've
I'm
got
happy to
literally
take
a
Baker.
yin and yang where Baker's thrown 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and okay, it's not against a great team.
But it's
Deshaun Watson was just so
it's
bad.
shone a light on his former employees.
Absolutely.
As well, Barkley.
Yeah.
I mean, shocked that the Browns got something wrong. Okay, moving on. Quick decision from everyone because it's only week 1, but whose seat got just that little bit, just camp stove warm? You know when you're trying to boil a kettle at a campsite and it takes like 45 minutes and then you're not even sure you can
I don't
drink
do camping.
No, I don't, but I have done as a kid.
Yeah, all
But
right.
now I electively choose not to because it feels like child abuse.
Yeah, also, I earn a wage, so go nice places.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Although you did just exclaim about having to pay for a bag to take with you on EasyJet to
That's
Zante.
ridiculously expensive.
You know you're turning into an old man when you say that.
£27.
I have
just for a slightly bigger
doubt,
bag.
No doubt
Is that each way as well?
Yeah, that's not to put in the hole. That's like to have a slightly bigger bag that you can put on the overhead carrier thing.
You've definitely got slippers and pajamas on under the table here, haven't you?
I have,
Yeah,
yeah.
unbelievable. He's turned into such a grumpy old man.
So
That's why I like recording here. I can wear my PJs.
in a few weeks, I'm going to Croatia.
Lovely.
Because it was a very cheap flight.
Very nice.
It's cost me twice as much to bring a bag on that flight than fly to Croatia. So yeah,
Better off just going on with all your clothes on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but
And what was the question?
Whose seat is hot? Because
So Robert Salah is already
Robert Salah.
Robert Salah.
Robert Salah. Sorry.
I love
I
that.
like it. That's going to stick.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz and Robert Salah.
Robert Salah is already like sniffing, going,
Are those my trousers?
is that my ass burning? And yes, it is.
Yes, I think it is, yeah.
And I feel really bad because I don't think he's done much wrong other than concede all the power in that organisation to a drug snorting. Oh no, well, I don't know.
Drug snorting?
I don't know what you do with ayahuasca. Ayahuasca huffing megalomaniac
Wow, what a description.
who missed parts of camp to go hang out with a man who ate a dog.
I heard Aaron Rodgers this weekend described as if you saw him surfing on a beach, you wouldn't leave him alone with your wife. That's what he looks like. I was like, well,
That's fair.
I can see that.
I have Kevin Stefanski.
It's harsh, isn't it? But
It
It's
is.
harsh.
It is. It feels like a Brown sort of thing to do,
yeah.
to blame the wrong person.
Blame the wrong person and sack him because Deshaun Watson's terrible, even though Stefanski had probably fuck all to do with Watson being there in the first
Yeah,
place.
it's Sacha Brown, isn't it? And
Yeah.
For me, I haven't gone with a coach. I've gone with a player. We've mentioned him many times. It's Bryce Young because Andy Dalton is definitely better and the Panthers are going to want to win some games.
Yeah.
He's another one, week 4, week 5. I know they like to give rookies a chance, but if he carries on being this poor, we saw Andy Dalton last year.
He's not a rookie anymore, remember?
No, and Andy Dalton, it's Andy Dalton, but is better than Bryce Young. That's the qualifier.
Actually can't be much worse.
Yeah, but don't forget, when he's played as a backup over the last few years, he's always been good. He was really good at the Saints. It's just they didn't want to play him.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Bryce Young. Okay, that's the hottest of hot seats done. My favourite bit. Elimination time. I want 2 teams from each conference after week 1 who have 0% chance of making the playoffs.
So NFC, I think it's quite easy. Because I don't think I'll have much argument when I say the Panthers and the Giants.
They're the 2 names I've written down.
Yeah, I couldn't remember my second one, but it is indeed the Giants.
It took me a while to get to Giants as well, actually.
Yeah.
In the AFC, Tetons.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure.
Now, Tetons based on week 1 or based on the division?
Based on the
Both.
division, week 1 didn't give me much cause for celebration, admittedly, but
The Texans obviously look good. The Colts are probably going to be capable of beating some people. And
is it?
even the Jags will be capable of beating some people besides giving up a big loss to...
But this is why this is
good
this is
team.
why this is difficult.
Is it the Browns?
No, because I think the AFC North is just ludicrous enough that you could have all 4 teams finish on 9 and 8 or 8 and 9.
I'll tell you, it's the Patriots.
Well, I was going to say the Raiders.
And
I was about to
the
say the
Raiders are
Raiders.
my other choice. Do you think the Raiders have more chance of getting there than the Patriots?
No.
So we're nominating from the NFC the Panthers and the Giants, and from the AFC the Raiders and who?
Titans.
And the
Tetons.
The Tetons. You think the Tetons have got less of a chance than the Patriots?
Yes.
Yeah. Because
If that,
Incompetent quarterback play and no defense?
if that defense of the Patriots actually carries on balling out, if Brissett carries on not turning the ball over and Ramondre Stevenson carries on getting 100, 150 yards
it's
a game,
a lot of ifs.
It is
there are a lot of ifs.
But at least they have ifs.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
true.
I trust Brissett more than I do Will Levis.
Oh, without doubt. And the Patriots' defense is better.
And I think the Patriots' defense is better, yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
just on those 2 things, yes, I put the Patriots above the Titans at the moment.
Then we are officially eliminating. They might as well stop playing now. The Panthers, the Giants, the Raiders, and the Tetons. See you next year.
I think the Panthers fans would be happy if the Panthers stopped playing.
I think the Giants fans would be happy. John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm only supporting my fantasy team this year.
Well, that's a nice
So
position.
country roads, take my homes. That's all I'm here for.
see, I'm happy the pressure is off because the Patriots won. I don't. If we go and lose another 16 games, we get to pick really high again. I'm good. I'm going to move on. But we were talking about the Dak deal, and then earlier we were talking about Daniel Jones, and so that's a team that have given a player a contract that probably deserves it, regardless of whether he's number 1 or number 7, and then a team that have given a player a contract that doesn't deserve it. And this is not to beat on the Giants, but it made me think the last good thing that Belichick did for the Patriots was basically make it impossible for Mac Jones to stay there, because they could have easily given him a contract and said, oh, it's for stability when we're bringing in Jared Mayo. And I very much get the feeling Bill and Mayo had already decided this guy isn't the guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wise move. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
I mean, well, it's the old Brian Cloughism, isn't it? Get rid of a guy a year too early rather than a year too late.
Yeah. Is that why Gary's not here?
He's out in New York being tested by Dayball. Turns out he's even more mobile than fucking Daniel Jones.
It's fair point. We've not seen Gary for a while, have we?
He's working away a lot at the moment.
Uh-huh. Did he take that mattress with him, or is he just waiting for him when he gets home?
Just makes the return home to his £19,000 mattress even sweeter.
Okay. We will be running something this season. We discussed it in the off-season called the Hall of Good. We don't want Hall of Fame worthy players.
It's good. I haven't got one this time.
No, we want players who entertained, players who won games in the face of adversity. Maybe they didn't win in the playoffs. Maybe they did,
But they did. But they,
Maybe they won a Super Bowl, but they just didn't deserve to be that guy who won a Super Bowl. But this is who we want. We are going to build our Hall of Good. We're going to start with quarterbacks because that's what you do. Next week on the show, there will be a number of quarterbacks submitted.
Just wait a week. We've got to give Paul.
You can make your argument, but we'll decide who we're letting in.
So, are we submitting them to someone and they're making the decision, or are we going?
So, as usual, when there's more of us here, the four of you will submit your picks and make your arguments to me, and I will be the arbiter. We will decide between us how many we're letting in at a time. I'm suggesting if there's four of you nominating, only two at a time can go in from each position. Now, if you want to nominate, we can nominate and discuss. I've got a couple written down. In fact, I told you who mine were, but we need to get the hall going. We're going to do quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, and then we're going to do defensive positions, and then we'll come back around again, and wide receivers and everything else. But we'll basically build an offense and a defense in the Hall of Good throughout the season.
Nice.
Once a player has been nominated, if he doesn't get in,
they can't go in. They can't be re-nominated that season.
So I don't want to hear Phillip Rivers 8 times this year.
Yeah. Well, I can guarantee it from one of our team, he will not come up at all.
Yeah, I know that.
But yeah.
So, John, do you have one in mind? Because Jim does. So I'm going to allow Jim.
Well, does Jim want to go first?
Make an early submission. The first ever Snap UK podcast Hall of Good potential inductee at quarterback.
So this is a quarterback. He was he played 21 seasons professionally.
Yeah, sorry, you just went quiet there. So yeah, I think the mic. Oh yeah, well, I might change. Do you want to speak into mine very quickly?
Is that better, John?
That is better. No, it works for me.
Oh, obviously it works.
Is it the wiring?
It might be the wiring.
Yeah. Where was I? So yeah, quarterback. He was drafted in 1985 in round 11, pick number 285.
Round 11.
Yeah, I know. Look at that. He was he probably still is 5'10".
He was.
I'm pretty sure he's still alive. He played for the New Jersey Generals, the Bears, the Patriots, the Calgary Stampeders, the Toronto Argonauts, the Bills, the San Diego Chargers, and the New England Patriots in 2005. It is, of course, the scampering little minx, Doug Flutie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Just really entertaining quarterback to watch. Probably a shame that we weren't involved, didn't have him for like fantasy football or really kind of.
Can you imagine him today? Like that is the sort of quarterback people would want.
But okay, he didn't have like a massive load of success in terms of like winning hundreds of games or winning Super Bowls or anything like that. But he's the same height as Bryce Young and Kyler Murray, and arguably better than both of them. You think about the era he played in as well, where defensive players could actually kill you, and that would just be a 5-yard penalty. He was up against some absolute ballers on defense, and he was entertaining to watch. Ran around a lot, won the Heisman Trophy. Boston College was his alma mater, and that's my fun Hall of Good. Never going to be in the Hall of Fame.
I really like that. 14,715 yards, 86 touchdowns to 68 picks. And like you say, disappeared to Canada in the middle of his career.
Absolutely.
And then came back. That is exactly the sort of player that we envisaged for the Hall of Good.
He is regarded as one of the Canadian League's best ever players. So he's probably in their Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but I'm like 4th.
Yeah.
So, John, are you prepared to nominate, or shall I?
I've got someone I'm willing to nominate. I'm just trying to, in following Jim's example, I believe he was also drafted in 1985.
Wow. What are the chances?
In the second round, first quarterback selected in the 1985 draft by the Philadelphia Eagles.
Got me.
Big Randall Cunningham.
Big Randy. That's Gary's nickname. What?
Yeah, so When I was sort of getting back into NFL, like when we used to watch Blitz as kids, that's when I started thinking. But it was actually what I got back into what NFL was sort of early days of YouTube and the quarterback skill challenges as part of and he could chuck a ball farther than anybody else. He was also like a dual threat, like his rushing yards and stuff. I used to love basically going on YouTube trawls, watching Randall Cunningham, and
you could make an argument for him being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but
and therein lies the weakness because he's not, but should he be?
Potentially,
because that's my only. I love the pick. I have watched videos, and I'm not saying that he should be. I'm just asking: can you question it?
MVP in 1990, NFL MVP in 1990, comeback player of the year in 1992, first team All Pro 1998.
Like the guy got he got his recognition in the day, but like if you sort of say to someone, can you think of a prototype rushing quarterback? They'll probably go Michael Vick. Yeah. Or they think, if you wanted someone to scramble, Steve Young, something like that. Like, and I think I'm going to keep calling him Big Randy. He sort of gets forgotten a bit. And actually was just a whole lot of fun. Yeah. So, he's possibly a bit too good for what I sort of imagined. But, I really loved it. I loved Randall Cunningham.
I think it's a really great shout, and he is certainly one of those borderline players. Bit like Philip Rivers.
There's no borderline with Philip Rivers.
Well, of course.
I mean, you can't really put Philip Rivers in the Hall of Good because he will be in the Hall of Fame.
You think? Yeah. Well, this is the issue. Now, I will nominate one as well. I can't argue with either of you. I think you've both produced very good reasons and demonstrations of what we're looking for here. I've tried to stick with players I have seen, and so I had written down a few. You've seen them. But the one that I hadn't mentioned, and he doesn't have the skill set, he doesn't have the number of wins of either of them, but he entertained us, and his arm was a thing of beauty. I'm nominating Jay Cutler as a player that I just couldn't get enough of. Would you want him on your team? No, you fucking wouldn't want him on your team. But when he stood there on the sideline smoking a fag, refusing to come back into a playoff game because his asthma was kicking off, he was smoking a cigarette. I kind of thought, the ball's on this guy. Like, this guy is brilliant. He was a Broncos player, drafted by the Broncos, traded to the Bears. So the Broncos had room for Tim Tebow.
Of course, yes.
Tim Tebow. So he always comes up. Now, over the course of his career, what a cannon this guy had on display. You can look up Jay Cutler throwing bombs, and it's just impressive, and it stuck with me when I first got into the NFL. Okay, this guy's getting a lot of stick all the time. I used to read the press about it, and I could never understand, like, is this guy any good, or people just hating on him for some reason? He married was she like a TV personality / model,
housewife,
it just,
whatever.
Like everything he did seemed to rankle people, and yet he'd turn up and he played the same game every week, win or lose. It didn't matter. I'm throwing the ball 45 times, and you'll either catch it or you won't. And when he had Brandon Marshall,
I was gonna say the connection he used to have with Brandon Marshall,
and the other wide receiver's name has completely gone out of my head. It'll come back to me in a minute. But at the same time as Brandon Marshall, there was the guy on the other side of the field. Absolutely amazing. Jimmy Graham at tight end. It was one of the best offenses to watch. And it would get me hooked at the time because that is what I like to see. You guys know the sort of quarterbacks I like to see. I don't really care what their winning percentage is. Did they entertain me? Did they try the ridiculous? Did they go for a 75-yard Hail Mary with very little hope of winning it just because they didn't want to run another play? And Jay Cutler did all of those things. So for me, also he came out of Vanderbilt, who don't really produce sports people.
No, they're not one of the big producers of NFL talent, it has to be said.
So for me, that's the sort of guy I'm looking at. Did you entertain me? The rest of it just doesn't really matter. It's beyond the realms of what we require for the Hall of Good. Now,
as well as his arm, as for Jay Cutler, one of the best things about Jay Cutler was his shoulder, because he would drop the shoulder and run through defending lines.
Yeah. And that gets missed off a lot.
The one name you haven't written down, which I fully expected to be in this conversation.
Is it my favourite quarterback of all time?
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. So obviously at some point I will get to nominate him, but I didn't want to go early with that because if he gets nominated and doesn't get in because you guys have nominated players that are too good, then I can't nominate him again this season. I need to see a weak field.
So there's a game afoot here.
Yeah, exactly.
There is a game afoot. But again, you understand the sort of player I'm looking at. You can't tell me that at some point Jameis isn't getting a nomination for his 30 and 30 season alone.
He's still playing. Surely,
yeah, exactly. Now that's what I mean. At the moment, we can't.
He's not making the Hall of Fame. I love that man. He is not making the Hall of Fame.
But Martellus Bennett. That was another great play. Like the connections that he had with his offensive weapons. And how many people liked Jay Cutler when he was on their team? Fucking nobody.
No.
Nobody liked him.
You mentioned that TV program that he was on where his wife was on.
Yeah.
I watched it a couple of times because the wife liked that program.
Yeah, the wife, yeah.
And he's a complete arsehole.
Fine, absolutely.
You'd love him.
Brian Urlacher was like, I prefer Kyle Orton. Like on a TV interview. And you're like, okay, Kyle Orton, not that talented, but you'd rather have him as your quarterback. So next week we will induct 1, 2, or 3 of those players, and then we will allow the other guys to have their say. Next week we will be making nominations for running back.
Oh,
we are building an offense.
So
first.
many. I'm going to have to be smart here.
At the end of the season, we're going to see what the Hall of Good looks like. Before we go, does anyone want to have a quick look at next week's lineup of fixtures and pick out 1 or 2 games they think are going to be worth our time? I don't want to hear the Tetons mentioned in this rundown, nor the Giants.
Dolphins, Bills, Thursday
night football.
That's a cracker. That would only have been a better game if the Dolphins had lost to the Jags and had to win. Yeah.
Vikings, Niners.
You're going to win that.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting to see what Sam Darnold can do against a proper team.
Yeah, probably not as much as you'd like to think. But
Lions, Buccaneers.
I was about to say Lions, Bucks. It's that playoff game was close.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be good to see.
Chiefs, Bengals.
It's too early for the Bengals.
But they always beat the Chiefs.
They do, but
This is the thing.
But they always lose in the first 2 weeks of the season. It's which curse is stronger?
Oh, do you know what game I'm not looking forward to? Broncos, Steelers.
Oh, it's going to be so bad, isn't it?
That doesn't fill me with anything good. Okay, I'll take one then that nobody's mentioned that I think it's going to be entertaining because it might just be bad. Browns, Jags. Yeah, like I'm looking forward to that because which one of these teams is going to have the stank on them after this? One of these teams is going to be 0-2, and I don't think either of them really thought they'd be 0-2.
No,
I think they both maybe thought 1-1 at worst. Because I think they had expectations. Yeah. Certainly, both of them would be expecting to beat each other in this game.
I would say the Jags would probably go into that slight favourites.
Yeah, I think so.
For stability reasons, above talent reasons. Yeah.
I'd say talent reasons as well, really.
You reckon now?
Yeah. At the most important position, and you're taking Lawrence over to Deshaun Watson, aren't you?
Yeah.
Defensively?
Cowboys cut them up.
I mean, that's fair. That's fair.
With like 2 good players.
Yeah, I guess.
The Browns have like 2 or 3 absolute stars on their defense.
Yep.
The rest are bombs, and they do concede. They might get a lot of sacks. They might get a lot of like fantasy points, but they'll also concede a lot of actual points, which is sort of what matters. I think this isn't the years of Saxonville, but actually I saw enough in that Jacksonville game. Arik Armstead, I think, makes that. Josh Hines Allen is still there. Like, there's some good players.
Well done on remembering the name.
Thank you.
Toilet bowl of the week. It's got to be Giants Commanders, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's going to be a pants game, That's going to be two teams struggling like hell. It's not even going to be the entertainment of a blowout.
I mean,
I think the Patriots,
Tetons Jets could be bad.
Patriots Seahawks could be really dull.
Yeah.
I think that'll be defensive, but
Yeah,
I think
that's what
it'll
I
be.
mean.
I think it'll be entertaining. I just can't
It's one
see
for
anything.
the purists.
Yeah, and I am.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Still my favourite Super Bowl. 13-3. All right. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. That was week 1 in the books. We'll be back next week with more or less of us, depending on who's working away from home and whose wife lets them out to play. So thank you very much from The Snap. Good night.